Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to this edition of That Wilderness Survival Show. Over this series, I would like to share with you some survival skills that hopefully make your outdoor experience more enjoyable. In the last episode, I showed you how to set up a Paiute deadfall. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to set up a simple snare. The two of them are really nice to know how to do. They are utilized for different animals, different locations, and if you know how to set them both up, then you can set up 5, 10, 15 different locations and catch different runs for different animals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to carve the peg, the trigger, release, and show you exactly how to set it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to acquire the materials, and I'll show you how to carve them. Like in the last episode, the better you carve it, the more exact you carve it, the better it's going to trigger, the more chances you're going to have to catch the animal. With the Paiute trap, we used stuff about the size of your finger. With the snare, I like stuff a little bit thicker, so I go a little bit thumb size, maybe a little bit bigger. So we've got a nice little piece of stick right here, and I'm going to show you how to carve it. So what we do is we need a piece about 9-10 inches long. The end of this is in quite good shape, so what we'll do is we'll just kind of take the rattiness off the end of it. Like so. Okay, so what we're going to need for this is we're going to need to carve, remember in the Paiute we had that nice little notch? In this one here we're going to carve a deeper notch. Where the notches ride together, there's going to be two notches, two sticks with two notches, one notch in each. Where the notches ride together, I don't like bark, because bark has a tendency to, sometimes it'll catch, sometimes it'll make it hard for you to set your trap up. So what I do is I just take the bark off the end of the stick. Notice how nice it is to work with a sharp knife. You're going to hear that over and over in my shows because it's something that I think is extremely important. Sharp knife and always put it away. Keep something in the bush with you to sharpen your knife. I've shown you that before. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is happiness of a multi-tool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve the notch in about 1/3 of the way into the stick, but not too close that it tears off, because you're going to have tension on the end of the notch, and that's going to come from the small sapling that you're going to use as your trigger. All right, so we got it here. And if you don't have a multi-tool, then you're just going to have to carve this in absolutely the best way you know possible. Now this is why I really like willow as well, because the grain in willow is nice and hard and nice and tight. Maple, this is maple. Maple works good as well. So you notice how the notch is nice and smooth right here, and then it's got that little bit of a back angle to it, or it's nice and square. All right, this is what you're looking for. So we're going to make this our peg. We want it to be 9, 10. It doesn't have to be all that long. And remember how I showed you how you're going to do it? You don't have to have your thumb directly over top of the blade. You can apply pressure just like that, and just give your stick a little bit of a turn. Remember, your blade's really sharp because you know you need a sharp knife in the bush. Take your knife, put it away, don't set it down. You don't need to be spending 15-20 minutes looking for your knife. Okay? Nice and easy. You don't want to break the stick. You break it off nice and square like that. All right? What I want that for is so that I can start with another notch on this end when I make my other peg. Okie doke. So because we're going to be driving this into the ground, what we want is it to be sharpened to a point. You don't have to get super elaborate on this. You just need something that's going to drive in. And you'll be driving it in to a distance, you know, like maybe that deep or so. Just into, depending on the ground you're going to be driving it into. If it's really hard ground, then you're going to not want to break your tip off either. So if it's really hard ground, you only have to drive it in. And it's all going to depend on how much it holds. And that's going to be practice in your backyard when you're out camping and when you set it up. You're going to know. It'll pull the peg out. You're going to have to drive it in or make it a little bit different, arrange it, muck with it, deal with it, because that's what you're going to have to do.
Natural hazards are hitting Canadians harder and more often than ever before. Yet it takes surprisingly little to survive their wrath. A candle and water could help save your life in the short term. And paper will see you through the long term. Learn how to protect your life and home. Visit these websites. A message from the Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction and the Canadian Red Cross.
It afflicts more men than any other type of cancer. 1 in 6 Canadian men will be diagnosed in their lifetime, and more than 4,000 of them will die.
It could be your friend,
your partner,
father,
your son,
brother,
or it could be someone like me, a prostate cancer survivor.
A cure can be found, but we need your support. Let's unite in the fight against prostate cancer.
When you're in the race of a lifetime, split-second decisions often determine the final outcome. Being a mother is kind of the same. Timing is everything. So how much do you know about meningitis, a bacterial infection that can turn potentially fatal in a matter of hours? It's important that you do 2 simple things right now. Visit the MRFC website to learn the facts about how you can protect your child. Then talk to your doctor about which options are right for your family. That way we can all win in the race against time.
What the? Can I help you?
I'm depression. I've come for you.
Pardon me?
Depression, you know? I get people angry, keep them up at night, give them anxiety, muddle with their heads.
That's
crazy. Yeah. Actually, the government likes to refer to me as a mental illness.
Well, shouldn't you be wearing a cape or a...
So people can see me coming? This is perfect. I got 20% of all Canadians already. I can get anybody.
Now that we've got the other end of the stick, we've got the peg made, now we have to make the part that holds onto the peg and actually releases when we set up the noose for the snare. All right, so, and again, I don't like bark, so we just take the bark off. Nice and easy. You don't want to take too much wood. Just make this nice and round and neat. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I do like my multi-tool, but you can do this with a knife. Just please, please be careful. Again, you don't want to go all the way to the top. What you do want to do is you want to have them about the same. So you can see how both of these two are about the same distance from the top, and so they'll fit together nicely. So you want to have them about the same, all right? So we carve in a little more than 1/3 of the way. Little tiny bit of a back angle on it. All right, nice and easy. Remember, you don't want to cut the top off. Alrighty, that looks pretty good. Nice little notch there. And this is going to fit like so. All right, so now what we've got to do is we've got to carve the other end of this up about here, and we'll carve it with a notch all the way around, and we're going to attach our string to the willow or piece of maple or whatever we're going to use as our spring. So I got to cut it off right about there. Using our same techniques. Watch out being really close to knots too, because the wood tends to harden up a little bit around the knot, and it might make it a little bit more difficult to break. So I'm a little bit close to that knot. Let's just break it off. Notice the knot. All right, didn't break quite as clean as I like. That's all right. I can clean it up. There we go. And I think on this whole peg, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all of the bark off on the whole thing. That way we don't have to deal with it at all. There we go. Make a nice neat end on it. Okay, now right here is where we're going to have to be fairly careful, because we are going to be cutting our notch here. So I like to do this in stages. It doesn't have to be really deep, but it does have to be enough that it's going to be able to hold your string. Or your wire, depending on what you're using for your snare. And then when I do this, once I do this end here, I'll show you a way of setting this up. You can do it so it triggers from the top, but it's not quite as sensitive as triggering from the bottom. So I want to set this up so that I carve one of these down around the bottom too, but it's not going to be holding any weight or anything. Okay, so now we've got the top, and it's going to be held like this. And now I'm going to set, and I'm going to make one of these down at the bottom as well. Okay, we don't want to take too much material off. Just nice and easy. You can see it's kind of cracking a little bit. You got to be careful. If it starts to crack and crumble away too much, then you're going to have to recarve this, because otherwise it'll just pull out with the weight, with the tension of the stick on the bottom. Oh, look at that, a ladybug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some force on it. Okay, you see the way that broke off there? So that broke off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly carve another one, and then I'm going to show you how to set it up. Okay? This is what happened, is the end cracked and it broke away. I put some force on it, and as soon as I did that, the end chipped off. What I did is I built a new one. All right? So it's nice and easy. It's very important that your stuff works properly and you're not using cracked or broken sticks, because they are going to be holding tension. So I've got a nice new little one here that I've carved, and that what I was doing earlier was I was showing you how to carve this notch in the bottom. Now this is going to be your trigger right here, It's going to be upside down like this, held by the stick, is going to be held by the tree. This is going to be driven into the ground. And when the animal comes along, the string is going to have a loop over here, and it'll pull the notch apart and go up. A lot of them will show you, if you're looking on the internet or in books, that you just have it here and over. It takes a little bit more to trigger that notched peg snare. All right? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take it over, I'm going to show you how to set this snare up. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to do this in the wide open. What we're going to be looking for is a run in the earth where you can see the animals have made a trail. You're going to want to set this up just at the side of the trail with your loop, and then you're going to guide the animals in and back out again. Please, please be careful with this. It will catch cats and dogs. You don't want to do that. You want to do this in an area where you're not going to catch domestic pets. You don't really want to catch anything unless you're in a wilderness survival situation anyways. But it's a lot of fun to practice, especially when you're out camping with your kids and stuff, and do not leave them set up. Please do not leave them set up. Okay, so what we've got is a branch that we're going to use. So we're going to tie our string onto the branch right here. I'm just going to set these down. And we've got to make sure our string is long enough. Okay, we've got lots of length on it. So we're going to tie our string around the branch. Right here. Use a clove. Holy mackerel, look at the ladybugs. All right, so we've got that set up there like that with our string hanging down. Now when we pull this down to the ground, we're going to see where it goes to. So it's going to be right about the vertical here is going to be right about here. So we're going to pound our one peg in right there. Now let's imagine that the run is right here, okay? So it's coming off to the side. Okay, so you want to point the notch at the run. And this is what I was saying earlier about how hard the ground is. Now when you're pounding it in, whether you're using a rock or whether you've got a hatchet or whatever implement you're using, don't pound on the front here where the notch is. Pound it on the back and help it down with your other hand. Okay? Lift up on it with your finger, making sure that it's in nice and solid, because you don't want your branch to pull it out. Always remember to put your tools away, and that way you don't forget anything. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tie the string to the top, and that's going to hold just like that, all right? And then I'm going to tie it around so that I've got a little loop. Now you can use 2 pieces of string for this if you want to, or if your string's long enough, you can use 1. And you just tie it around here nice and tight, and then loosely tie it here, and make your loop right here. Okay, and then you can make your guide to channel the game, the rabbits, whatever it is that you're trying to catch, through this area right here. All right, so we'll bring this down to right about there. Okay, and we'll tie it off. Nice and even. Hope I haven't got too much tension on this branch. We'll find out soon enough, won't we? So now as you go, you want to test everything out. Okay, so you're going to test that out. Careful, because it is set. Okay, so you've tested it out. It is going to spring. All right? So now we bring it off. We open up a small loop in the line here. Just get this up a little bit higher, because you just want to have your string so that everything fits nice and even. All right. Okay, so now we've got that set like that. This is going to come down and it's just going to wrap around the back side like this. Okay. Just like this, little half hitch on there. All right, and then you set this in just like that. Okay, now this is where you really got to be careful, okay? I'm using pink string so it's a little bit easier to see. And there you've got your loop. Okay, now depending on the size of the animal you're going to be doing and that you're going to be catching, you can either have a loop set up nice and big like this, or it could be hanging right down beside, because it might be just a small little run, and your loop is going to be right on the side like this. And you can use leaves, you can use sticks, whatever you want to use, and they'll make your channel off to the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to spring this, and then I'm going to set up a bigger loop. I'm going to go and get another piece of string, but for this demonstration right here, I just wanted to show you how this works. All right, a couple of fingers. So what happens is the animal pulls this out. Sometimes you can see them in books and stuff and they'll be set on the top, but I like this one here because it's got a lot more of a hair trigger. All it does, just like that. Okay, so depending on how you like to set it up and depending on what seems to work best for you, I'm demonstrating what works best for me. I'm going to get another piece of string and I'm going to show you how to set up a nice big run right here. Alrighty?
If I make a mistake, will you give me away?
Will you leave me behind when you move? I'm cute now, but someday I'll grow up and you'll get tired of me. We know we're a lot to handle. Which one of us will you get rid of?
Do I really have to beg for your love?
Please don't make me sleep outside. Would you hit me if I scratched the couch?
My parents are allergic to me. Can I come and live with you?
If I wet my bed, will you rub my nose in it? If you won't play with me, who will? I cry when I'm left alone. Will you have me put down?
So while we're on the break, I set this snare up. I'm just going to show you what it looks like when you set up a channel. Be careful, because if you touch your snare at any spot, it's going to trigger. So you can see when I move the leaves away, you can see the channel that you want to have the animals go into. You want to set up a bit of a barrier here so that they don't want to go around your snare. So what'll happen is they'll come down your little channel, and you want it fairly built up on both sides. I'm just doing it on one side for filming purposes. And your animal comes in here, and when they move the snare, all they do is they just trig the trigger just a little bit, and up it goes. Let's go back over here, and I'll show you how to make a squirrel snare. And we'll end the show with that. Right. So I'm going to demonstrate a fairly quick and easy way for a squirrel snare. These you don't have to practice too much, because they are exactly how you see them. Some of you guitar players are going to recognize this. It's a new string for guitar. I like to keep them in my survival kit, because they're nice and rolled up. They slide really well. Okay, so what we've got is a thin piece of wire. The reason I use wire is because the wire slips easily and you can form it. You don't need sticks to prop it up. So what we've got is this nice thin little piece of wire. You run the end through the eye. You can either make an eye on the end of the wire, or like wrap it and make an eye, or you can use, like I use, new guitar strings, and or even old ones probably work just as good. Just roll them up and put in your survival kit. This is going to fit something like this. What you're going to do is it's going to be on a stick that you're going to prop up against a tree. So you're going to tie this off like this. So you want to wrap it around a couple of times, like so. And then once you get it to where you want it, and you just bend the wire so that it doesn't pop back on you. And now what you've got, you can even throw a small twist in it if you like. And you make a couple of these. One guitar string will usually make you a couple. And then you just set this up and over on the log like so. All right, and then you can prop this log, or this small stick here, up against a tree where you know there's lots of squirrels living, and they're going to run up and down the tree. And what happens is the squirrel goes running down or running up. They don't even really notice it because it's really thin, and it's in their area, so they might not use it at first. But if you leave it there for a couple of days, what happens is they get stuck, and because the guitar string slips really easy, they just get stuck and hang off the back side of the stick. And if you've got 2 or 3 hanging on there, remember, you're always checking your traps and your snares. If you've got 2 or 3 on there, a couple of squirrels makes a nice meal. That's just the way it is. Okay, so please remember that this is for survival situations only. If you're going to practice making this, make sure you take it apart as soon as you've practiced with it. You don't want to catch animals in your backyard. And if you're out camping and you're practicing it, and you're showing kids how to do it, make sure they're old enough and responsible enough to know to take it down after you've practiced putting it together, because you do not want to be hiking along a trail and find a squirrel hanging on a branch. Please, this is for survival situations only. Do not use this to catch squirrels in your backyard. Thank you. The wilderness is here for everybody to enjoy. Please pack out everything you bring with you and leave no trace.